Okay, so here I am out here in September, and as you can see, there's obviously a really very clear planet that is right north of the sun. And wow, I would love to say it was the moon, but since the moon happens to be right here on the opposite side, there's no way it is. And since we all have been taught in school that Mercury and Venus do not show up, oh, just look at that planet just beaming and shining right now. Somebody tell me what it is. Thank you.
Hi guys, welcome back. So I thought I'd share this clip of a supposed mysterious planet next to our sun. A viewer sent in to me last week. Well, a couple of days ago to be honest. As you can clearly see, a huge object is very near to our sun, with the moon to the very far left. Could this be Planet X showing itself? Or is this just the glare off the camera's glass lens? Or another lens to filter out the sun glare? It looks suspiciously like the massive objects in my other video, the sun ghosts. So please go check that video out if you have not yet seen that one. Now I have to say guys that I have seen the original post to this video clip that you're seeing now on Reddit, and the comments were fantastic. I would say 50-50, both sides believe that it's either a hoax and it's been done through some glass shades or something like that, with the mysterious planet being just a glare off of like another lens or another piece of glass. And the other half of the Reddit viewers all believing that this is Planet X or a massive UFO like the ones that have been seen around our sun, with the video that I did a couple of weeks back. Again, if you've not seen it, the link is here. Go ahead, watch that video and let me know your thoughts. So guys, on to the next part of the video. These oddly strange cloud formations or square edge clouds that do look very odd indeed. Many believe these to be massive alien ships in some sort of cloaking camouflage or some sort of cloaking device or state. It does seem very strange to look up and see something so bizarre in the skies. Could it be a HARP experiment or a Project Bluebeam experiment with cloud cloaking, or could it be as simple as nature playing tricks in the skies above us? Whatever it is, it sure doesn't look natural to me. But again guys, leave me your thoughts in the comment section below on what you think these straight edge clouds or square clouds could be. And guys, for the last part of this video, I thought I'd share some news clips on UFOs. So how can so many thousands of people across the world, in all different parts of the world, all different years, be so wrong on what they believe they saw? And all the military personnel flying or chasing or being chased by these UFO craft, because at the end of the day, that's what these things are. They are solid objects, they are craft in the skies above our heads. It's not time to wake up, but I do believe it is time to realise that we most certainly are not alone.
The government went from denying unexplainable sightings to admitting people are seeing things that nobody can identify and releasing military video of some of them.
It wasn't like that, though, in 1994, when strange lights lit the sky over the lakeshore. Tonight, our Target 8 investigators are discovering how that sighting changed the lives of the people who watched it, and the government's new attitude, what it means to them.
Here's Target 8 investigator Henry Erb.
Today, 3/8/94. The time, 21:30 hours. We're right there in the sky. This is something we've never seen before.
Unexplained lights over Holland on March 8th, 1994. Strange stuff. Didn't look like a plane or anything else people are used to. Had them calling 911.
Okay, I don't know if you guys do anything on UFOs at all. They were at least 4 lights.
They were like Christmas lights.
Holly Graves' family watched for 20 minutes from their front yard. Colored lights slowly rotating.
When all of a sudden my son just started screaming, you know, get out here, you gotta see this.
All the way from Ludington.
It was a big sighting. There was a lot of news coverage, and for a while, Holly kept her kids out of school.
And they just went through a really hard time because they know what they saw, but it's like everybody still laughed at you.
People forget that the U in UFO stands for unidentified. That means nobody knows what they are. Still, that's never stopped people from speculating, sometimes choosing up sides, even getting nasty.
They accused us of being in the backyard smoking weed with doing drugs with our kids. That was MUFON.
It's been nearly 30 years, but the experience left a mark. Holly says even today her now adult children don't want to talk about it. But listen to her.
I'm glad my family got to see it. I really am. It's like once in a lifetime to see this.
You listen to her nearly 30 years later, and it seems like the experience changed her in some way.
It's an experience that I'll take to my grave with me.
So you're looking at this thing that night, and what were you thinking?
I was thinking I was going to lose my job.
Jack Bushong's job was meteorologist for the National Weather Service at a station in Muskegon. Ottawa County Central Dispatch was getting a lot of UFO reports and reached out to him for radar clarity. He found out later their conversation was recorded.
We're getting a whole bunch of calls with some strange light.
Then I was really scared, and I lost sleep.
He fretted about what people would think about what he was seeing.
People think you're a kook, you know? You're lying, you're not credible. I'm supposed to be a scientist and skeptical.
I'm looking at it in the vertical now.
On the recording, you can hear Bushong calmly controlling the radar by hand, trying to zero in. When he finally gets the picture.
Well, oh my God, what is this? They were going together and coming apart.
Radar was telling him the objects were forming a wide triangle and moving fast. No recording, so he made these paper tracings of what he was seeing on his screen.
They were moving about 20 miles in each jump. They were hovering and then jumping, hovering and then jumping.
These are huge returns. I've never seen anything like this. Not even when I'm doing storms. These are storms that are like, they're just popping up all over the place.
He says the radar told him he was looking at something solid.
It was a flying tin can, you know? I don't know how else to explain it.
He says some people dismissed what he saw, but despite his worry, the sighting didn't seem to affect his career. He got promoted, moved out of state, won an award for his storm predictions, and eventually retired. But all that time, he clammed up about his experience on the lakeshore.
I kept my mouth shut, and I learned that really quickly.
For decades, the government fostered that kind of fear by dismissing UFO reports, explaining them away as people misidentifying stuff like weather balloons. It kept even credible people quiet. After a flock of sightings in Michigan in the 60s, then Congressman Gerald Ford of Grand Rapids said in this letter, the government was misleading the public and called for congressional hearings and more straightforward talk. That took more than 50 years, and lately there's a big change in government attitude. It's why Bushong is talking about it again.
That has everything to do with it, yeah.
138 now, that's fast.
The government is now releasing video of sightings by the military and admitting in this report just released that people really are seeing things that nobody can figure out. Bushong says a lot of the video and descriptions are just like what he saw on radar nearly 30 years ago.
I guess I've been waiting for this vindication, which I didn't think I was going to get all my life, so I was just going to let it die out. But now with the military coming out and basically saying exactly the same thing I saw 30 years ago, I can finally say to people, told you so, you know.
Bushong says he's going to write a scientific paper about his experience in 1994. And nearly 30 years after seeing the same thing from her front yard, Holly Graves has a wish.
I wish everybody'd see it. I do. I wish everybody would see it because it was It was an experience of a lifetime.
It's April 1966 and more than 200 students and a dozen teachers at 2 Melbourne schools are sure they've just had a close encounter. This is Australia's most famous UFO sighting. The object stayed on the ground for more than 20 minutes, then took off rapidly, and some say it was buzzed by 5 aircraft. The school children were warned never to speak of it, authorities telling them that flying saucers just don't exist. But 50 years later, witnesses insist they know exactly what they saw.
Those years ago. In Melbourne, Joy Clark and Terry Peck, and in Brisbane, Jackie Argent, and also with us in Canberra, principal researcher for this UFO incident, Shane Ryan. Good morning to all of you and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Let's begin with Joy and Terry in Melbourne. Can you tell us what you saw?
Yes, Natasha. I was out playing cricket on the oval at the time and we noticed these 3 craft hovering above the school, which was a bit unusual. They definitely weren't aircraft. And then after about 10 minutes, we saw one go down into an area behind our school called the Grange, where we used to do our cross-country runs. So being a little bit of a rebel, as I was at school, I was one of the first to run through and jump over the fence and arrive at the Grange, and it was on the ground in front of me. The other 2 girls had arrived before me, and one was hysterical, Tanya, and the other girl had fainted. So I just looked at it, and after a few minutes, it just raised up above me, probably to about 12 feet, turned on its side and went zoom straight up into the air and disappeared almost instantly. And there were 2 other craft in the air at the time.
Joy, did you see something similar and what were you thinking it was at that stage? Were you convinced it was a UFO?
Look, I didn't know what it was.
Yes, definitely a UFO. I was actually in science class and we had a student had rung in and flung the door open and said, Mr. Greenwood, there's things in the sky, there's flying saucers in the sky. So we all ran down the corridor and out onto the oval, and yes, there were flying saucers in the sky. I saw 3 of them, but it took me quite a while to sort of comprehend what I was looking at because I'd never seen anything like that before.
Jackie, it's quite intriguing. Did you also see those flying saucers?
I saw a flying saucer. I don't recall there being more than one. But we were down the back, I was down the back of the oval with Tanya when we noticed it in the sky. It did some manoeuvres which were very strange, which is why our attention was drawn to it in the first place. And then it came down over the Grange, we could see it coming down, so we took off after it. Tanya actually reached the craft, I believe. I didn't. Because she came back screaming towards me, and then I ran back with her to the school. She got taken away in an ambulance, and that was the last time I saw her.
And can you tell us a bit more about these craft? What colour were they? How big were they? Did they actually land, or were they just hovering above the ground?
The craft I saw was silver in colour. It was round. It did come down on the ground. Even though I didn't see it on the ground, I saw the marks that it left later on that day. It could move incredibly fast, and it could also appear to stand still. When it took off from the other aircraft that were buzzing it, it made them look as though they were at standstill.
Right. And Shane, skeptics have dismissed the event as just the product of the fertile imagination of children. What's your response to that?
Some skeptics have, and there are other skeptics, I think, who take a more serious look at a story like this, a story which has so much witness testimony. I'd like to begin by paying tribute to Joy and Terry and Jackie and all the other witnesses who have been brave enough to come forward and talk about this story. 96 witnesses so far have been happy to talk to me about the flying saucer that they saw. 147 people have come forward and spoken to me about the circles in the paddocks that were left behind by the flying saucer. So if you just look at those numbers alone, you realise we're looking at something pretty important. Now, remember, when we talk about UFOs, obviously in the general social consciousness, people think about extraterrestrial craft. UFOs simply means unidentified flying objects. We don't know what an extraterrestrial spaceship, for example, would look like. Now, it just simply means something that was seen in the sky that nobody could easily identify. And I think we have to begin with that. Now, as interesting as a program as The X-Files is, and absolutely it is, I think this is a UFO story that all Australians need to know about, need to take seriously.
Can I ask what happened to the girl? You took her back to the school, the one that was hysterical. Is it Tanya? And she went into the hospital, and then you went to visit her at her place, and they said she didn't live there.
That's
yes,
right.
I went to her house the following day, and an English-speaking woman opened the door and said there had never been a Tanya living there. Now, the problem with that is that Tanya's parents didn't speak English to start with. I think they were Yugoslavian. So I'd been to this house a lot of times and then was told, no, sorry, you're mistaken.
Oh my God,
So what's happened to her? Do you know if she disappeared? Have you had any contact with her? Do you know where she is and what happened?
I have had no personal contact with her. I know one of the researchers has. She prefers to stay anonymous and not be involved in anything at all. She told the researcher that she had no recall of what had happened. And then there was a very odd story about her parents putting her in a convent for some reason that was, to me, totally ridiculous. That's it.
So guys, two very different UFO encounters. I'd actually not heard of these two before, I must admit, but I do believe that they both deserve more attention and maybe another video, so please hit that like button and comment on what video you would like there and I will work the magic. Okay guys, please subscribe if you're new, like and share the video. Thanks everyone, we'll see you soon.